Want to speak real English from your first lesson? Sign up for your free lifetime account at englishclass101.com.
I'm going to use the force to make you watch this whole video. Hi everybody, welcome back to Ask Alisha, the weekly series where you ask me questions and I answer them. Maybe. You can send your questions to me at englishclass101.com/ask-Alisha. First question from Harley Pasos. I'm very sorry. Harley asks, what is the use of get plus adverb or preposition? For example, I get down. This is a question about phrasal verbs with get. We can use a lot of different things after the word get. In your example, to get down, we use it when dancing, for example, like I want to get down this weekend. It's sort of an old-fashioned expression though, to get down. We can use a lot of different words after the verb get though. For example, get into. To get into something means to become interested in something. You might hear to get at, like get at me, or get at your professor. To get at means to reach out to or to communicate with, but it's a very casual expression. You can say get after, like I need to get after my homework, for example. It means to like chase after or try to do something. Also, to get in, like to get into a club, to get into a restaurant, to get into a party. The nuance is that something is challenging, but you can gain access to that thing. Like I got into the party last night, but I wasn't on the list. There are a lot of different uses of the word get. I can't talk about all of them in this video because there are so many. So if you're curious about the various phrasal verbs that we can use with the word get, check out a dictionary. That's a really good place to start. Next question. Next question comes from Long Ann. Long Ann asks, what is the difference between simple past tense and past continuous tense or past progressive tense? Simple past tense we use for actions that started and ended in the past. So the beginning of the action and the end of the action happened in the past. So for example, the sentence, I ate breakfast is a simple past tense statement. I ate breakfast. Ate is the simple past tense. The past continuous tense, however, or the past progressive tense, is something we use to talk about an action that was continuing at a specific point in time in the past. If I want to use the past progressive tense, I can say, I was eating breakfast. Using that continuous tense, using that progressive tense implies I want to explain something else that happened at that time, or maybe I want to add some more information. So for example, I was eating breakfast at 8 o'clock this morning, or I was eating breakfast when the phone rang, or I was eating breakfast and watching TV at the same time. I was eating breakfast while studying today. By using the past progressive, I'm explaining that an action was continuing at a specific point in time, as in the example, I was eating breakfast at 8 o'clock, or I can use past progressive to show one action was happening at the same time as another action in the past. If I use just the simple past tense, I'm just saying a simple fact, in other words. This action happened. I ate breakfast at 8 o'clock. If I want to emphasize the continuous nature of the action for some reason, like I was eating breakfast at 8 o'clock, I can use the past progressive tense. In that case, it might be in response to a question like, what were you doing at 8 o'clock this morning? So if someone wants to ask maybe what you were doing at a specific point in time, like someone is suspicious of you, like, what were you doing last night? You can say like, oh, I was having dinner with my friends last night. But past tense, simple past tense is something we use for actions which start and finish in the past. But progressive, the progressive tense in past can be used to emphasize the continuing nature of that situation or that action. Next question. Next question comes from Yasin. Yasin, I'm very sorry. What's the difference between on time and in time? Is it you arrived just on time or you arrived just in time? We use on time to refer to doing something at the correct time, doing something at a scheduled time. So for example, I need to get to work on time, meaning at the correct time. Or did you make it to your appointment on time? In time, however, is used when we want to kind of give a nuance of rushing or hurrying for something. I need to leave my house now to get to the airport in time for my flight. I need to study for my test now if I want to be in time for the party later. You should probably leave now if you want to be in time for the movie. In time for something else. So I want to do action A to make my schedule meet this other condition, this other thing I would like to do, or this other thing I need to do. In time for has the nuance of a deadline. We can use this expression in like a panic, like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to make it in time. Like to submit a paper, I'm not going to make it in time. In time means like before the deadline, whereas on time has the meaning of completing an action or completing something at a scheduled time. Next question. Next question comes from Gerson Silva. Hi. What is the difference between shade and shadow? Oh, great. This is a great question. Both of these words can be used to refer to a place that is darker than its surroundings because there's an object that is blocking the light. We can say there's shade over there or there's a shadow over there. In that sentence, they are used the same. However, shadow refers to the dark shape only. So a person can cast a shadow. We use cast, the verb cast, with a shadow. I cast a shadow when I stand in the sun, for example. Shade, however, as a noun, refers to or has the nuance of a kind of shelter. So shelter provided by some other object, shelter from the light, shelter from the sun. So we would say stand in the shade because shade has the nuance of shelter. We would not say stand in the shadow. Shadow does not carry the nuance of shelter in the way that shade does. Interestingly enough though, shade and shadow are both used as verbs as well. To shadow something means to follow something closely. To shadow someone at work means to follow someone at work and try to understand their job, for example. Shade is used as a verb to mean to create shelter from light. For example, the canopy shaded us from the sun. Shade also has some interesting uses. You might hear the slang phrase to throw shade. Throwing shade is a really interesting slang expression that we use, which means to communicate disrespect or to communicate like contempt. Bad feelings for something. When you're speaking generally, in most cases, when you want to talk about a dark, cool area, we should say shade. Stand in the shade. When you want to talk only about the dark area, that dark object, use shadow. Next question. Actually, two questions from Danny. Hi, Danny. Danny's first question is, you talked about lit as slang. Yes, I talked about lit in episode 2. Episode 1, Episode 2 of Ask Alisha. Can you please talk about the verb light and using it in active and passive? Sure. Light means to start a fire. So to light a fire, to light a candle. Some examples of active and passive voice with this verb then. Why don't we light some candles for dinner tonight? All the candles in the restaurant were lit. On our camping trip, my neighbors lit a fire and we brought hamburgers to make. A fire was lit in the campsite while we were gone. I was going to light a fire, but I fell asleep. So to light means to start a fire. He lit the house on fire. We can say to light blah 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 on fire. So there are a few different examples of using the verb light in active and in passive, past tense, future tense as well. So I hope that that's helpful. Danny's second question, can you talk about ride and its uses? Like take someone for a ride. Can I take a ride? Ride is another verb that has a lot of different uses. You use the example, to take someone for a ride means to drive together with someone. To go for a ride has the nuance of doing something just for fun. It's just for fun. I want to take a ride to a location. I want to take a ride to the mountains this weekend or take a ride to the beach. But to take someone for a ride means to invite someone to drive somewhere with you in a car. That's one way to use ride. You can also say, give me a ride. Can you give me a ride? So this is a request expression. I don't have a car. My friend has a car. I want my friend to take me in their car to a location. I can say, can you give me a ride to the movie theater? Can you give me a ride to the lake? Give me a ride is a request. So give me a ride in your car. So there are a lot of uses of ride. If you want to see all of them or if you want to see more of them, I recommend checking a dictionary. There are quite a few and I can't talk about them all in this video. So please check a dictionary. Next question. Okay, next question is from Femme. What does "you're too good to be true" mean? Is it good or not? Maybe you've heard this in a famous song, "You're too good to be true, can't take my eyes off of you." In that case, it's a good meaning. A different way to say this expression is, you are so good, you are so amazing that I can't believe you're real. So in other words, something must be wrong. There must be some problem with you. It's not possible for you to be real because you are so good, you are so great. So "you're too good to be true" is like, wow, I'm amazed by you. So it's a good expression. If, however, maybe in a more uncommon situation, someone said like, this guy's too good to be true, like maybe reviewing a job application, for example, this girl, she's too good to be true. Like, if it's said in that way, maybe there's something suspicious about that person. This doesn't seem right. There's just too much good information here. There must be some problem with this person. Depending on the intonation, it can portray either a very positive meaning or a very suspicious meaning. In most cases, however, it's a positive meaning. So if you heard this in a song, for example, it's probably a very positive, kind of romantically nuanced phrase. Thanks very much for that question, Fem. Nice one. Next question. Rabia Arshad. Rabia Arshad. I'm very sorry. What's the difference between can and may? I saw this on the Dining Like a Champ cheat sheet and noticed these words were used for requests. What's the difference? Can and may for requests in modern English, in modern American English, are used the same. If I use them in a statement, can refers to ability, may refers to permission. Please just be careful. Can and may are only used in the same way to make requests in modern American English. Next question is from Taylor. Hi again, Taylor. Are "where are you from" and "where were you born" the same? Great question. Where are you from? Where were you born? No, not necessarily. Not necessarily. Where were you born is only the place where you were physically brought into the world. Maybe your hometown, the place you identify as your hometown, is different from the place where you were born. Maybe you were born in Spain, but you grew up in the USA. Your family moved after that. So you could say, I was born in Spain, but I grew up in New York City. If someone asks you, where are you from? It might be a good idea to say, I was born in blah, 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 but I was raised in blah, 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 in a different place, if the two places are different. Next question. Next question is from Hassan. Hassan says, how do we use gotta in the negative form? So we did a live stream about have to and got to and need to on the YouTube channel and on Facebook a while ago. Gotta is a contraction, a very casual contraction of got and to. It's not a real word. Gotta is just the sound that we make when we say got to very quickly. Like, I gotta go to school today, or I gotta finish my homework, or I gotta get to sleep, I'm so tired. In American English, we do not use gotta in the negative. Instead, we use have to or need to. I don't have to go to work tomorrow. I don't need to go to work tomorrow. I don't need to go to sleep right now. But American English does not use gotta in the negative form. Next question. Next question is from Sadaham. I need to improve my spoken English and my vocabulary. How do I do that? I think there's a tool on the website where you can record your voice speaking English and compare it to a native speaker saying the same thing. So I think that's a feature on the website. So check that out. If you haven't been, it's at englishclass101.com. There should be a recording function there where you can record your voice and compare it to a native speaker and keep practicing that until your voice and your pronunciation matches the native speaker's pronunciation. So you'll see like little waveforms there even on the recording page. So you can try to match your voice to a native speaker. So of course, practicing with native speakers where possible, repeating. So creating your own speech is important too. Practicing with like recording tools, voice recording tools. When you record yourself, you suddenly hear so many problems in your speech. So recording yourself can be another good tool. But in terms of building your vocabulary, first I need to define a goal. What do I want to talk about? If I want to talk about food, I should look for materials in my target language talking about food, and I should study those. So think about what it is that you want to do and try to be specific. Try to narrow your goal down to, what are the words that I need to do, and try focusing there. And then maybe you can widen the focus to other interests here and there too. But start maybe with the things that are going to help you communicate the things that you really want to say. So always think about your goals. What do I want to learn how to say? Next question from Ricardo Villarreal. Oh, hey Ricardo, welcome back. Is it correct to learn several languages at the same time? Ooh. Is it correct? I can't answer that, whether it's correct or not. So I've heard that if you want to try, for whatever your reason is, if you want to try to study more than one language at the same time, it's better to try to choose languages that are quite different so that there's less chance of you making mistakes or getting confused in your studies. The other thing that I think I would say is if you're studying more than one language at the same time, your progress might be a bit slower than if you studied just one language. Yeah, is it correct? I don't know. I can't answer that. That's up to you to decide. So those are all the questions that I want to talk about this week. Thank you so much for submitting so many interesting questions. I really appreciate it. If you haven't submitted a question yet, you can check it out. The submission page is at englishclass101.com/ask-Alisha. So check that out. Send me your questions. If you liked the video, please make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel too, and check us out at englishclass101.com for some other stuff. We talked about a few things today that you can find on the website, so definitely check that out. So thanks very much for watching this episode of Ask Alisha. I will see you again next Saturday. Bye-bye. Bonus vocabulary word for today, spoiler, spoiler. A spoiler is secret information, key information about your media, your book, your movie, your TV show. If you see the phrase spoiler alert somewhere, it means the next piece of text, the next information, the next thing in the video is going to be secret information about the story. So if you have not seen the movie, if you have not seen the TV show, or you have not seen the book, you might find information you don't want to read yet. So spoiler means something that will spoil or something that will ruin the story for you. So no spoilers about Star Wars until we've seen it, yeah? Use the Force to study English.